All right, ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome. Schubert here once again with an episode of Top 10 Tuesday, a series where I take you through my most played games according to Steam or Origin, because those are two services that I use that actually count the gameplay time. Today we land on Farming Simulator 15 with 211 hours of gameplay. Farming Simulator 15 came out in October of 2014, and what Giants and Focus Home Interactive have done is essentially every 2 years they create a new game. The first one I have experience with is 2011. Unfortunately, I bought it like a couple weeks before 13 came out, and I played 13 a little bit. Not a whole lot, but a little bit, some 50, 60 hours, something like that. But then 15 came out, and 15 also came out with this Farming Simulator wheel made by SATA, which is now, I believe, a part of Logitech, where they had a wheel and a side panel. And that really improved the gameplay for me. It improved the feel, being able to be in the game, steering, turning the joysticks to maneuver the front loaders and things like that. And so that's why there's a huge jump in gameplay between 11, 13, and then 15. One of the things I want to be able to do today is take you through 15 just a little bit. I'm not going to spend like 2 hours in this game, but I just want to show a little bit of what goes on and what is different from 15 now to 19. There's lots of videos on the internet about 2019, so you can go check those out on YouTube. There's a lot of different people that do regular content in 2019. But I'm going to take you back just a little bit into 2015. So let's take a look right away at the options. You can change your nickname, your measuring units, money units, dollars, or euros, or pounds even. You can have your dirt off, slow or normal, or fast. I do believe that, if I'm not mistaken, this was the first game that had dirt accumulation, where you actually had to wash your vehicles. But I don't remember 100%. For some reason, I think that. You can take a look at your graphics, of course. We have it up on very high. Got all that stuff. Don't do the adapted VSync, it won't really work. For miscellaneous, it does offer that gamepad support, the steering wheel support, like I said. You can take a look. I didn't change anything, so no. You can take a look down here at the mods that you have downloaded. However, there is no in-game mod hub. That came with 17 and now 19 as well. And it's a very good feature. I like it quite a bit. You can look at all your controls, and it takes forever to go through and set stuff up if you don't already have a controller that is automatically set up. On the main page here again, you can see they used to give us these little details about what DLCs are available. And I have all these downloaded, so I don't know why it keeps popping that one up. You could look at tutorials. There's lots of different things here that help you understand just what you're supposed to do in the game. You could take a look at what achievements you've unlocked over time. And of course, I don't know why, but for some reason I think that restarting the game, reinstalling the game, resets some of these, because I could have swore I did more than 100 miles in vehicles and stuff like that. So I just don't know exactly what's going on. You used to be able to do multiplayer in this. I think you still can. You can do multiplayer in 17 and 19 as well. I just don't know if it'll be active, if you'd be able to connect with friends on this. Funny enough, I've had Farming Simulator since 2011, and I have yet to attempt the multiplayer. I think the only friend on my friends list that has this game as well, or any of these Farming Simulator games, is a guy that's been on YouTube making Farming Simulator videos for a long time. So it's not like I could join him if I really tried and wanted to get into contact with him. He does do that with some of his viewers, but it's just something I have yet to actually give it a shot, as it were. Go ahead and delete that. We'll take a look here. When you start a game, you get start, easy, normal, hard. If you're looking for a real grind, a real challenge, you're wanting to do all the field work yourself and all that kind of stuff, go for a hard challenge. If you want easy, you get a lot more money, small bank loan, completed missions return more money, and hiring assistants costs less. We're going to click it on easy, just for the sake of this video. Now, in the beginning, you have 3 maps, unless you downloaded any mod maps. The first 2, Bjornholm and Westbridge Hills, were the default maps. Sosnovka was added later with like a DLC or something. Bjornholm is Scandinavian, and Westbridge Hills is supposed to be the United States. Being that I am a person in the United States, I'm going to go ahead and be self-centered and click on the Westbridge Hills map there. Then you get to sit here and wait for your loading to occur. It gives you some different tips on this screen, as you see. Start your career now and discover the numerous fields, activity, da-da-da-da-da. Says the decision is yours. Lets you know you can dive right into the multifaceted world of agriculture. And once we start, we're greeted with this. Hello, if you are not yet familiar with the game's basics, you can always start a new game in the Bjornholm map and participate in the short introductory tour. So they created a tour for that map, but not for this one here. As you can see, we start off right here in front of our barn, in front of our nice house, the little flapping American flag. Nice big fields around us and behind us. And the map in the lower corner, if we pause it real quick, you only have 2 pages on the pause menu. You have the one that gives you the briefing, all the details, and you have your settings. You can change the time scale, you can change the mission frequency, plant growth, plant withering, volume of everything. You can show help icons, all this kind of stuff right here. Then down at the bottom, we can save the game or quit. If I click on some other menus, you can see we got our finances here. We have a loan of $50,000 out, and we have a balance of about $12,000, just under $12,000. And we can borrow or repay at really no interest. You could just keep doing this back and forth. I don't remember if interest accrues after each day. I'm pretty sure it does. We can take a look at our shop here. You have a garage. And these are the different tractors that we have. So we got this little Hurleyman, Deutzfahr, Beerer, which I've actually seen a couple of these in the United States. Like, I don't know how they got all the way over here, but I'm pretty sure these are mostly European kind of tractors. But I've seen some Deutzfahr, of course, because AGCO and all that. I haven't seen any little Hurleymans. That'd be kind of cool. I like this little tractor, especially in 17, because it just sounds so rich in 17. But the Beerer, I've seen some of those. It's interesting. And then all sorts of other brands. We got some weights and stuff like that. If I go back, we can take a look at the shop. Here are all the items you can buy. This is listed out a lot differently in 19. If you'll notice, first of all, tractors. In 19, I love how they did it. They have small tractors, medium tractors, and large tractors. In this game, they're just all here. And you have to click on each one individually to see what their horsepower rating is, what their daily maintenance is, how many you own, and even sometimes if they can be attached to a front loader. Because as you can see between these two, there is a difference in the description down below. You could do potato and beet harvesting in this game, along with your corn, soybeans, canola, all sorts of other stuff. We could take a look at what's available in a minute or 2 or 10. And animals. You can do cows, sheep, and chickens in this game. Now, the chickens are different than they were in 17. In 17, you just had chickens. That's it. In this game, you have to purchase the chickens. You have to run around and collect their eggs. You do not have to feed or water them, though. So we can just go ahead and buy a bunch of chickens. Now, the annoying thing with Farming Simulator, for some reason, with the animals in this game, you have to sit here and click over and over again that you want to purchase it, like that. In 17, they changed that. You can actually do a scroll wheel. I haven't got yet to buying animals in 19, so I don't know how that goes. I do know in 19 you set down a field or a paddock, unless you already have one. The odd thing is, the same thing occurs when you're purchasing seed pallets in 17 and 19. However, we don't purchase seed pallets here. Let's go back out. We're going to start and take a look at what is available to us. Well, I know already that field 16 over here has a harvester in front of it. And we've got some wheat out there in the field. So if I hop in, you can see we got this Comia Sampo Rosenlu. I'm pretty sure that's how you say some of that. I apologize if I butcher a ton of stuff. And we have a C6 is the size. So we can jump into here. If you need to look at the tips for 15, you actually have to go back out and turn the automatic help on, like that, and then you can toggle it with your control. It's kind of goofy how they did that one. But if I click all my buttons here on my controllers, and I drive ahead a little bit, disable straw swath is 16. We don't need a straw swath, so I'm going to disable that. If I go ahead and hit 18, you can see a worker gets hired, and he just takes off with it. Yeah, goes to town. If you didn't notice, or if you didn't know, a lot of people complain about the hired workers. They can only go back and forth. They can only go up and down the field and make little odd turns at the end. And it is definitely something that could have used improvement. I know writing AI and stuff like that is not easy. But go back to Farming Simulator 11. I think it's 11. And 13 maybe. Not sure about 13, but definitely 11. You'll be able to see that the worker, when they take off, if you're pointed just a little bit off on your axis, that's where they go. They don't follow the edge of the field. They don't follow even where you've been before if you already started. They follow a direct line and then just go back and forth from there. You can see our options here are we have a cultivator, a seeder, and a wagon. Of course, we need the wagon to empty the harvester. And in front of these two Deutz AgroStars, we have weights that we can put on, which we will need eventually. So if I just go ahead and hook him up, drive him over to one of these sheds here and get to parking him. Not parking like 1950s style, which basically means that you're making out, but just parking him. Now, the one thing you'll notice here in 15 compared to 17 and 19, the vehicles start automatically. In 17 and 19, that kind of changes. You have the option there to start the vehicle yourself, something that I absolutely love, because it just provides that little bit of extra realism. Now, if I ever got one of those ASP boxes where you actually have to turn the key, that would be cool. It'll be a long time before I can afford to buy one of those. Go ahead here and hook up our seeder, or our sewing machine. I don't know if in real life there's a difference. I'm not a farmer myself, but I do know they separated the two in Farming Simulator 19, so there is that. In this game, in 15, we don't have to buy seed pallets. You just have to come up here and refill your sower. I guess they call it a sower. And it does take money. So the seeds, you are purchasing the seed, despite the fact that they're sitting there on your own farm. It's kind of funny, but you are purchasing the seed. But it is kind of nice, in a way, to not have to deal with the pallets. They always can be a bit of a pain in the butt. However, it's a little bit more realistic if you have to fill your hopper somehow manually. And you take a look here also, Farming Simulator 15 did not offer any track IR support. There is a way to do it, and I've done it in the past. Essentially what you have to do is turn your track IR on, turn on mouse emulation, and then there is a mod, or a script, not a mod, that you have to run at the same time. It's this big hassle. I forgot exactly how or where I found the information to do it. But once you get it to work, it's a little finicky, but it works fairly well. And it's kind of nice now in 17 and 19 that they offered track IR support, so that you can just get in here and you're actually looking around the cab, being able to do all sorts of different things with just your head and not having to either reach down, grab the mouse, or use this joystick over here. Oh, look at that. He's almost already ready for us to take him home. So we'll go ahead and get lined up here. The nice thing about this wheel, there's a lot of nice things about the wheel and side panel. I am one of the fortunate few that was able to get one that apparently did not break within the first 3 months. I've had this wheel and side panel since I bought 15. So for 4 years now. I use the side panel for a lot of different games. I basically use it as a button box when playing anything from American or European Truck Simulator to racing games that offer more buttons than what are on the controller, or buttons that would be easier to press on a side panel and not a controller that you have turned to a certain angle. And I just use it all the time. It's great, and I like it a lot. I'm going to take a look here at a couple things before I head off away from him. I just want to show a bit more of some of the things that have changed between the versions of Farming Simulator. As you can see here, we are making some nice tracks on the ground. However, if I go ahead and cut through this field, there was no crop destruction within this game. That didn't come in until a mod was made to do so. I remember in Farming Simulator 13, some of the vehicles that were modded did it. And I know this, and it was either 13 or 11 even. I think it was 11 actually. Because there was one truck that I downloaded that when I drove through a field just with that truck, it took out the crop. But in this game they didn't have that yet. That came in 17 and is another great feature if you're going closer and closer towards simulator, towards realism. As you can see here, we can unload by pressing the button 20 here, and it just kind of picks which side, left or right or back, it chooses to dump out of based on your position on the unload point. The cool thing about the newer ones is you can actually select which point you want to dump out of. A lot of times I just select to dump out of that grain door because I think that seems a little more realistic to me. But I've never seen one of these Brantner wagons in real life. I have, witnessed a lot of other wagons, but not these Brantners. A lot of gravity wagons where I'm from. A lot of J&Ms. What's one of the other brands? I can't think. Starts with an H or something like that. A lot of, oh, there's my other tractor. A lot of auger wagons, because there's a lot of big farming. But with the small farmers, it's mostly gravity wagons that they use. Here is our cow shed. As you can see, it's pretty simple. You can feed them there in the troughs. You can throw some straw into there for the bedding. I think if we look at the technology, where would we find it? Not under animals. Oh, where would we find that? There's baling technology. Would it be under miscellaneous? No. There's a water tank you can use to, I don't know, to do what, because you don't have to water your animals in this one. At least I don't think you do. Oh, I know. It'd be under... Silly me. It's right here. It's under feeding technology. Oh my gosh. So you have this Primor 3570. You can throw a straw bale into there, and then that'll chop it up and throw it into the building for bedding. Then you can have this coon here that will actually feed them. This one won't feed them. This one will just cover the ground. This one will actually feed them. If you go back, take a look at my Fallout Friday video. I looked all around for the bomb that was connected to a tripwire, and I did not see it, even though it was right in front of my face. Instead, I had to put some text on the screen with a little arrow saying, hey look, there's the damn bomb. Now here is one of the goofy things about Farming Simulator. I have worked on and around farms in the United States my whole life. I have not seen a robotic milker used on a farm. But as far as I know, I wouldn't think you'd have... I should say this is kind of an opinion. Kind of a thought that I don't know the answer to. I would think that the robotic milker would not be outside, exposed to the elements. I would assume that this thing would be inside, in the, you know, at one end or the other of that barn there, with a little walk around. It always seemed odd to me that these things are outside. I mean, you have computers, you have the milkers, all of that stuff you would not want to leave exposed to the elements. So it's a little weird that they put it out here. And I don't know if that is any different in 19. I have yet to buy an animal. So if it's not, I'm going to have to write to Giants and send them some pictures of some parlors I've built. And be like, hey, this is what a milk parlor looks like. Not the thing you created. But basically, the cows go and get themselves milked all on their own right there. Down here, you have a bunker silo that you can drop food into and then pack it, and it'll become silage. For some reason, right next to the bunker silo, they have the manure pit, which you wouldn't have your food right next to your poop, but okay. And then outside here is another trough where you can feed the animals. I think you can throw feed in here. I don't think you have to water them. I don't remember what the water tank is even for in this game. My experiences in Farming Simulator have been about the same throughout the series. I start a farm with the goal of getting to animal creation, and I give up after a while. I mean, I start one, usually on the harder difficulty mode, and I come up with the idea that, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to become a dairy farmer. I'm going to get those cows. And then I just kind of lose interest, or I get frustrated. Usually I get frustrated with, like, a poor purchase, a bad idea. I make a mistake with planting something, and I feel like I can't rectify the situation. Oh, we have another one of these little guys. I forgot about that. Well, that brings me to another little bit of something cool you can do. You can, if I go to... Oh, wait. Can I not do it here? Might not be able to do it here. We can go into our overview, I guess, is what it's called. You have the weather forecast for the next few days, which doesn't really affect the crops in this game. It does in 17 if you're using seasons. Like, you can't plant when it's too cold. The crops will die if they're too wet or whatever it might be. You can look at your storage prices, what you have in storage, and how much you're going to get per ton. You can look at other storage prices for milk, wool, seeds, fertilizer, eggs, fuel, straw, etc. And here we can look at our vehicles. Now you see, if you have multiple, it will tell you which one you have selected. So right now I jumped into that one. If I go back to that screen, I can reset the vehicle. And when I do so, it resets it back to the farm. This is very different from 17. Farming Simulator 17 will reset it back to the shop, which gets to be frustrating as heck. For some reason, I like the idea that it resets to the farm and not the shop. As you can see there, you can select different vehicles by just clicking through them, by using the tab key. Otherwise, on the wheel, I can use a couple buttons. A lot of people will just refer to it as tabbing through vehicles because you hit tab to do it. The AI here will just automatically unload what they have into my hopper, into my wagon, which is nice. Every iteration of Farming Simulator, they've worked harder and harder at improving the physics of the grains in the wagons and everything else like that. You might not see it as much when you go from, say, 13 to 15 or 15 to 17. But if I jump back to 11 and then go all the way up to... If I jump back to 11 and then go all the way up to 19, you are definitely going to see a difference. Something that I like about the way they do this game series every 2 years with a new release, I tend to like that a lot more. It gives them time to really stabilize the game, improve any bugs or issues that they have, get more brands and different vehicles into the games, implement new ideas, new concepts into the games, and it doesn't feel rushed. The annual releases of Call of Duty or Madden or 2K, it always feels like, to me, if they delayed and did one every couple of years, they would have a lot better product. And products that don't feel like they're completely the same from year to year. I don't ever feel like Farming Simulator is the same. I know a lot of people do. A lot of people have issues with it. Where they're like, oh, it's just the same thing all the time. Like, well, no. There are a lot of differences. And with the type of game that they're working with, and the size of the company that they are, it's a significant difference. I mean, it's a significant improvement from year to year. The only thing is, Giants, I'm sorry to say this, but I like the old skyboxes better. I don't know what it is about 19. I don't like that awkward glow. I don't like that very much at all. You can see our chickens are in their pen clucking away. Every now and then we have to go and pick up their eggs. In here we have our, what do they call them? Ground crops? I forget what they're really called. Your potatoes, your beets, and your potatoes, beets, and what else? Oh, wood chips. Yeah, we got wood chips over there for the first time, which is weird, right? Yeah, that's wood chips. I forgot we can do forestry in this one. Go ahead and get a guy started cultivating. Now, the thing with this game versus the newer ones, you don't really have to plow. I mean, you can. And if you're going for the realism side of things, you would. But I don't think, if I go into my settings or take a look at my stuff, you don't have to plow anything. If I take a look at this, you have plant growth and withering. But if you don't want to use the plows, you don't have to. The innovation that they made in 17 then is that if you want to get the best harvest possible, you have to plow, you have to fertilize, you have to do some of these different things. Another thing to take a look at when you're comparing all these different games is the texturing, the lighting. A a lot of these different changes. Like I said, Giants is not a huge company. They are not a AAA developer. To release a game like this every single year would be very difficult for them, I think. So these subtle changes that they make every couple of years, yeah, they might seem small, but they're actually quite significant, I think. Again, take a look at how the dirt flies up off the cultivator, how the dust flies, the rolling of the dirt underneath. I think that changed a little bit in 15. It got a little bit smaller, or a little bit in 17, excuse me. I think it got a little bit smaller. And in 19, it's to a point where the way it interacts with the ground and the shading of each, it's almost imperceptible. It's almost like watching an actual cultivator drive by. You might not notice, unless you're really eyeballing it, you might not notice what it's doing to the ground itself until it passes. Hire a worker here too, just so he can do stuffs for us. We'll see. We'll switch back to him and see if he follows the line that we started. Or if he fixes it, straightens it out. Take a look. We're accumulating some dirt on the vehicles. The cultivator is going quite nicely. Although I said the word cultivator to my dad, who's an old guy. He hasn't farmed in 40 years. But when I mentioned the word cultivator to him, and in the process, or what line in the process that you use it in this game, he said, no, that's a chisel plow. That's not a cultivator. So I think there's a bit of a language difference between Giants, who are a European-based company, and at least old fogies from the Midwest, United States. Kind of one of the goofy things here is waiting for him to be done. And then you got to come up around on the outside, or on the inside rather, over top of the crops. Now in real life, I don't think you'd do this. I think if he was full at this point in time, you'd back up. And you would wait until he's ready. Cut across in front of him real quick. Now we're all filled up, about 98%. We could have gone for that extra 2, but I just decided, the heck with it. That's good enough. Let's walk away from him. And if we take a look again at our stats page, or whatever it's called here, if we go to our storage prices, we've got a bunch of wheat within us. However, it doesn't look like we're going to get a lot of good prices out of it. Well, we'll get some good prices, but it looks like wheat has been down. We would be better off if we planted canola. But here's the thing in this game. I don't know if canola takes more seed in 2015. In 2017... canola takes a lot more seed to plant than wheat does, at least without any mods. So you're kind of at a trade-off there for how much money you get out of it and how much it costs you to put it in. Which is cool because that's kind of the way it is in real life. You know, farmers have to decide what crop to plant. It's partially based on the amount of money they'll put into it versus the amount of money they'll get out of it. It looks like possibly the train station is the highest bidder here. So if I go and take a look, if you take a look, the train station is just up there to the left, or we could say to the northwest. We can go ahead and drive up there and just drop some of this stuff off. I'll show you what everything looks like as far as that goes. Up ahead here we have the shop. As you can see, the model didn't really change from 13. It's either 11 or 13 where the building looks pretty much the same as it does here in 15. But you know, if you create an asset, you might as well use it. I know watching and learning about all the updates in American Truck and Euro Truck to see what it takes to create that game. They create new assets for each map. I mean, some of them overlap, but a lot of times, man, they're creating new stuff. That's what takes them so long to get a new state or part of a new country out. Just crazy what those guys try to do. Okay, we come up here, top of the train station, and of course we can unload it. Let's try to trick it so it unloads to the back. See what that looks like. Come on, I hit the unload. Oh, it's button 20, that's right. There, we got it tricked to unload to the back. You see the grain coming out looks really good. It looks a little weird the way it drops off the bottom of the trailer. But once again, that was still a great improvement over what we had in the previous versions of the game, where basically the wagon would be empty and then it would just disappear. Now I'll head on back to the farm. We can take a look at what some sowing and other things look like. And I guess I didn't even pay attention in the upper right corner to see just how much money we made off of that trailer. Is that about 10,000? I think we had 9,000 going into that. Gotta watch out for the AI vehicles because they will F you up. They don't care who you are. They'll just take you right out. It gets to the point where, especially right here on this road, if you have the AI drivers doing this, you see the combine backing up into the road, he could possibly get hit and get hung up on an AI vehicle. Go ahead and see where he's at. 73%. We can hop into this guy here. My original idea for Fridays was basically to play Farming Simulator and just get into that whole playing, possibly streaming a simulator game. Because I do find these games to be, quite relaxing. You just, you're sitting here just driving around. You can listen to the radio, you can listen to podcasts, you can do all that kind of stuff. But I realized that, at least for me, I want to do things a little bit more realistically. I want to be in the first person. I don't want to be able to just tab, quick switch between the vehicles. I want to do a lot of the field work myself, not let 3 workers run at the same time like I'm doing now. And in order to do that, the game just becomes super long, especially if I'm playing by myself. If I ended up getting into a multiplayer situation and being able to play with a lot of different people, that would be very different. But playing by myself, it takes too long. And I don't know if I could find enough things to talk about to cover that time, which is probably the hardest part. Gets me to about 50%. Then once he starts going, you can see we can cruise right along with him if we really, really want to. Although again, in real life, we would be destroying these crops big time. Some other subtle differences you probably will not notice unless you played 15 and you played 17 and you've played 19, or at least 15 and 17, is the overall weight of the vehicles. Without any mods, vanilla game, Farming Simulator 15 does not really have a difference in weight to the vehicles. Or the other way I should put it is, when you attach things like a header to that combine, there's no difference in the way the tires sit. When you get into 17, one of the first things you might notice, if you really pay attention to detail, is that they added actual weight to the game. I mean, you put the header on and the tires actually squish down. They actually deform. And it actually looks like they are carrying an extra load or two. I'll go ahead, I can hop into this guy and I'll show you what it looks like to sell a vehicle, because one of the things in the early Farming Simulator days that they often did is give you more tractors than what you actually need to start the game. Now, when you're playing on the hardest difficulty, I always found it important to go and sell these vehicles so that I could pay back my loan a little bit quicker, for one. I could afford to purchase other equipment, two. And three, so that I did not have the daily maintenance costs on a vehicle I'm not using. So if I take this little Hurley man into this little box here, and then I walk over and I hit the sell button here, you can see we'll get $22,200 for it. If I say no, I don't want to, and instead I back out of this box, and then I go to the shop screen, I go to the garage, and uh-oh, now I'm at a dilemma because we own two of them. So if I hit sell, there's a possibility that the first one to sell might be the one that's out in the field. I think if I go to, let's see, if I go to here, I can enter the vehicle or I can reset it. I cannot sell it individually. That is something that they changed in the next version, in 17. What I wanted to show you is that you get less money when you sell the vehicle outside of that little box. When you sell it outside of the shop. If you bring it directly to the shop, you get a lot more money for it. Now let's see, can we purchase anything else with the money that we made? No, because even their default Lizard truck is $59,000. So we really can't afford to do anything there quite yet. Another one of the great improvements you might be able to see is just how the textures are treated. First of all, go ahead and watch my little Farming Simulator highlights evolution video. I didn't do a good job of rendering and exporting that video, so it's a little bit blurry, but you get a good idea for the differences in the textures and how they changed between the games. You get an idea for how the vehicles, how the implements, I should say, cause the textures to pop up. You see here it's a little more subtle, a little more discreet. You can see it pop up there, but it's not like in 13 or 11 where just boom, the texture is there. So adding that little bit of dirt movement and all that kind of stuff really hid a lot of that awkwardness, I should say. It really hid a lot of goofy details that they had before. Something that I mentioned before, I guess I was kind of surprised that there was wood chips. For some reason, I forgot there was wood chips and forestry within Farming Simulator 15. Forestry is not really something that I touch in the Farming Simulator games. I think it's cool that they have it to give people that option. That's a nice blocking there on that view. I think it's nice that they give people that option. However, it's just not my... I don't know, it's not up my alley. It's not something I really enjoy, so I stay away from it a little bit more. I do usually buy a chainsaw, so at least I can chop things up. You know, chop down a tree or two if they're in my way. But something that I actually think is great with Giants and Farming Simulator is the way they might take a mod for one of their previous versions and implement that into the new version. So the forestry was a big time mod for, I think, 13. And they went ahead and implemented that into this game. Now, I don't know if, you know, I personally don't know myself if they pay the modders for their work, for their contribution to the game, if they do anything like that. I don't really know. I understand people could be frustrated if they're essentially just ripping off modders. But the thing I notice with it is that they are at least listening to their community. They're seeing that, hey, the community really likes this certain mod, this gameplay, whatever it may be. They like this idea that's out there, and they implement that then into the game itself, which is just, to me, it's really neat. But in all honesty, I do really like how Giants adds mods into the game as a new feature. I think it shows that they are listening to the community. They are listening to their players. They see what their players want to be able to do in the game. And then they work towards doing that. And in other ways, like with, is it Courseplay or Seasons for Farming Simulator 19? They actually work with the modders to make sure that they don't change their game so much that it messes with what the modder is able to do. Take a look here. You can see we used to get missions in the way of the job board. Via the job board, where you could bring canola. Like if I had 39 tons of canola, I could bring it to the warehouse for a reward. And all I need is a tractor with tipper. If I have a front loader with the pallet forks, I could go ahead and take this crate to wherever. They have a lot of these different missions. It's very much different from today, where you basically have to go to the field to do a mission. And I guess, like I said, I don't know with 19 yet. Since I started doing all these YouTube videos, I haven't played 19 quite as much as I've played some of these others. Also, I really feel like I need to upgrade my computer before I can play that game. And by upgrade, I mean motherboard, processor, RAM, like everything except maybe my video card. Because my video card is only like a year or two old. But everything else I have is like 4 years old. When we go back into the menu here, we can take a look. You can check out your growth, where it is in that level. You can see if it's ready to harvest or if it's withered. In 17 and 19, they offer a colorblind mode. For those of you, if you're like me and you can't really tell the difference between these colors here, I really can't see much of a difference. The funny thing is with colorblind mode in video games is, okay, I'm red-green colorblind, right? And you get into a game, you turn on the colorblind mode so you can see the icons better, or you can see the differences in these bars better, or whatever it may be. And it actually, in a lot of ways, was better for me the first time without the colorblind mode on. So it's an odd thing to have. You know, sometimes I can really see colors pop out, and I can really see the difference between a couple different things. And other times I just don't see the difference hardly at all. Anyways, moving on. If you take a look, we don't have any sheep, we don't have any cows, we got some chickens, 3 eggs in our backpack. We could sell those if we wanted to. So far, we've threshed about 2.13 hectares. Later on, in like 19 especially, they allow you to change this to gallons. They allow you to change this to acres. So you can Americanize it all you want, boys. Pretty much how it goes. You can change it to your liking so you know what's going on, if those are the metrics that you're accustomed to. All right, ladies and gentlemen, and with that, I feel like I've explained the game pretty well. I could get into a little more depth with it as far as animals and crop types and all that sort of stuff goes. But for the fact that I'm just showing this off as to why it's one of my most played games, I think I got the gist of it down. I think I got to the point. Now, this will be the first farming simulator in my top 10. The second will end up being Farming Simulator 17 because I put a lot more hours into that. And I will make a video about that game as well, just so that I can show the differences between the two. Now, if you're really interested in any of these kind of simulator games, especially Farming Simulator, you can check out a ton of other pages on YouTube where these games are played. I didn't throw it into my gameplay just because I didn't feel like I could do the game justice and chop it down to a video that's worth watching very well. And I didn't want to have like 4-hour-long videos clogging up my channel, because I feel like I would love to just show you every single step, every single detail, every single thing that I'm doing, and not have all sorts of cuts and time lapses and stuff like that in between. And with that, have a happy Tuesday. I will see you next week when we load up Battlefield 4 into my top 10.